I'm Peter Bailey, and as an award-winning author, journalist, and filmmaker, many of you may know me from sharing a nightcap with your favorite stars, read my articles in Time, Newsweek, the Miami Herald, and New York Times, or seen my Paradise Discovered film series. Now, I invite you to Upfront, the flagship talk show of Yellow Cedar, the new media company I've launched alongside fellow University of Delaware alum, business leader, and former vice chairman of the WAPA board, Jed John Hope, who BET called an innovator on the brink of greatness. Our mission is simple: to elevate the discourse in our native Virgin Islands. Upfront has been brought to you by Pro Solar and Christie's International Real Estate, U.S. Virgin Islands.
Well, what do you attribute that to? Because we've talked about this, but what do you attribute the lack of bench strength, the lack of folks wanting to engage in this process from? Why this apathy?
I remember my ex-wife telling me, why you want to be governor, and telling me about how they're going to drag me and the stuff that they did to my family, they'll do to my family, which they do. People tear my name up every single day. And you know what I said to her? I said, imagine, the people that allowed us to get here had dogs, hoses,
Thank you.
They hang them,
Thank you.
they burned them.
Thank you.
For us to get to this point,
Thank
right?
you.
We have a generation of children that forgot. And I say me, because I'm in that generation, a lot of us have failed to teach our children the responsibility of that. And sometimes we do, and they choose not to. I got 2 kids. One loved the Virgin Islands and want to live here, and the other one want to live in Atlanta. And I think people are different in every way, but we certainly have less martyrs here. And
Because we're entitled. Let's put the elephant on the table. We've been talking about how hard it is to live in the VI. It's hard to live in Miami. It's hard to live in New York City. It's 100,000 people here, right?
Right.
I just think it's a little bit of sense of entitlement on our parts when we think we're supposed to have certain things. Life is a fight, man. Life is a fight.
No, you're right, but it's really hard.
I think we've been given, I think I really think because of this paradise we have, there is no way in the United States you could just leave your lunch office and go walk on a beautiful beach for free. I think when we say it's so hard to live here, have our people really tried to make it elsewhere?
But do we value that?
That is the problem.
I listen to people talk about the quality of life in the Virgin Islands, right?
Look outside, quality of this place.
But we don't value that because we have it in abundance. You know what I'm saying?
How often you get to the beach?
A lot. You know why?
Me too. And I'm there every day.
Let me tell you the story why. I went on a cruise last Thanksgiving and I was on a beach in Mexico. And it was terrible. They had fences going out in the water. They was packed in with tourists. And I was sitting there doing a crossword, but I was quite relaxed. And I said, why don't I do this at home? And you know what I did when I came back? I went and buy 2 beach chairs and put them in my house. And I just stick them in the car and go to the beach.
To the concept of a modern colony where we're in paradise. But we're actually, music, young kids. A young man sent me some drill rap. I don't want to hear this because art is inspired by your surroundings, right? So you have this young man, he's living in this gorgeous reality, but his sensibility for music is from a kid from Chicago with brick buildings. So how do we get us to understand, remember, I'm going to coin this Virgin Islands fascists. So how do we get people to understand us? Because I think a lot of our problems, Governor, when we say life is so hard here, we're trying to fit a square in a circle.
Give me some of that.
Give
me some of that. Let me tell you how ridiculous it is, and it is hard. And I really to study all these things, right? And we build 5, 6, 10,000 square foot homes. Like we can't be outside. You know the reason why people build big homes?
Because it's cold up there. There's no beauty outside.
It's like if they could be outside every day.
They'll be in a cabin.
Think about this growing up, right? And I see this especially from people from the Eastern Caribbean. When they come to your house, they sit on your stoop. They sit in the yard. Outside. They never go inside. And I started to think about this and I started to remember when I was growing up, nobody ain't had no living room back then, The only thing you used to do in your house is sleep. Maybe had a little kitchen, and usually they build a kitchen outside because they want to burn down the house. Right? It's how we've been acculturated to the American way and lifestyle. We live on an island. I get to Taiwan, which is a way bigger island than us, right? Everybody got a scooter. Here, everybody got SUV. We compare ourselves to Americans who drive on average 20, 30 miles a day to work and say the price of gas is expensive, but we only live 3 miles away from where we work. But it's a mentality that we have to live up to that level. So when we look at what is valuable, we see somebody driving a Mercedes or wearing diamonds, and they're like, that must be what makes them happy. They're happy. I want to be happy. I want to do that. No one pays attention to, we have millions of people that come here to just sit on the beach. And so we as a people, we don't really value that in a big way. And it's not our fault. It's just because we're part of a system that breeds constant consumerism in order to drive this capitalistic engine we call America. You have to keep buying. And when you go to visit your people in the States, check it out. They got a new TV, the old one walking. New coffee maker, the old one walking. Sale come on, they go. You look in the fridge, they got 10 popsicle boxes. You're like, why you got them? Oh, they were 2 for $5 at the dollar store, wherever, Publix, and I just bought them. Like, it's a constant need to buy. You buy a $60,000 car and sell it in 5 years because it's old. After you pay for it. Like, who does that with machinery? You know? You don't do that, but...
So you run it into the ground, but nobody does that.
Nobody does that. Unless they have to, unless they can't, unless they... so I think we, like, loving us and who we are is like, I love being a West Indian man. Yeah, we got some bad habits and bad ways. I love them too. Because that's who we are as a culture. And I'll say this, even, I'm getting in trouble for saying it.
Please.
We have a fight right now to put Virgin Islands history in every class in school, right? And it's a noble gesture. But think about this. We are the children of Africa. And we are not teaching our children that on the real level, all of us come from Ghana, Cameroon, all around there, and all of us are the same. And we're the displaced people in a different diaspora, in a different hemisphere. And we are one. Instead of that, we calling one another names and being racist and separating these people because they speak a different language, even though they look just like us. And we need just to start. And I say that after every press conference I do, I love you. Because what we need is love. We need to realize that we are all family. And it's gotten so bad now, right? That people are showing up to other people's funerals. Their kid shot somebody else's kid, and realize that they're family. Like, they're actually related and they don't even know. So, I mean, I love this interview because I think one of the things we've lost is I watched my grandmother die, my great-grandmother die in my house. Wow. I watched her get old. She's the one that taught me the Lord's Prayer. She took me to church. She taught me my ABCs. I watched her get old. I saw my grandmother take care of her, and then she died. I understand the life process. I understand older people, and I pay homage to that. I still don't feel comfortable if an older person than me standing and I sitting in a room. Yeah,
that's how we raise up. That's how we raise up.
But the bombardment of American culture on us and people showing us images of who we are supposed to be. Like, there's nobody portraying or pushing an image of a young Virgin Island child looking like me. And when you ask young Virgin Islands children who they want to be, they're not going to say Nobel Francis or Stacey Plaskett.
That goes back to what we were talking about before, right? They want to be the rapper, the entertainer. I mean, and I guess in their defense, that's who got the key to the city. I want the key to the city. You gotta
Upfront classic.
Flag on the plane.
The funny thing is, you got a keychain.
I want the key to the city.
They realized Governor Bryan got a keychain, and he handed out keys.
No. The legislature hands on the keys to the city.
Not to muddy the good vibes right now.
Yeah.
I've always looked at you in the sense of you are a renegade. Yeah, you were kind of an anti-politician. I see why you're jubilant about Trump. But
and we'll get into that too.
Would you say, Governor, because of your boldness to step out and give certain people opportunities, have they taken advantage? Because we've had some corruption. We've had some people do some things that embarrass me.
Yeah, well, it embarrasses me as well too. And
was that your poor judgment on their character, or you saying I'm gonna give this person a shot?
No, I think I would say this. The people that we have in the Virgin Islands who are working for the people are dedicated people, and people make mistakes. People.
That guy with the Department of Education, that pissed me off.
Oh no, that's I don't want to comment, but that's a whole nother shebang craziness.
Gotcha.
And let's be clear, that wasn't in the Department of Education, that was in the Housing Finance Authority.
But it's just all of this rigmarole.
But if you think about it, right, and I think about this a lot, about, I gotta say this carefully. Generally, I drive around and I watch people throw stuff out the window, run through stoplights, pay people to get a car registered, or get a hookup from the partner who get stuff that fall off the truck, get a discount when they're supposed to get it, come in late for work and punch in and put 8, take lunch and for an hour and then bring the food back and then eat for another hour. Who are we? And I always tell people, if we get 6 hours of production out of people every day, everybody, this place will be paradise. And when we look at things, I think people think robbing the government isn't robbing themselves. And there are few people who think that they always, when they get a tax return, they're like, it's our money, we want it back. But how many people really think about the fact that if we giving people $3 billion over 30 years to the public system, that's only 1/3 of our total workforce. And the other 2/3 is working to make sure that the government is retiring very comfortably while they themselves don't have a retirement. Are they really thinking that that's their tax money? That their tax money that's being sent? And then people that are saying, oh, let WAPA shut off, let it shut off. Do they really punish WAPA? Do they really understand that we own WAPA as an entity? There's a very sharp disconnect between the government and the people. And the same people who say, I want my tax return, right, don't understand that when you're taking that money from the tax return, then you ask them, why isn't my school fixed? Or why isn't my road paved?
Right.
Or why is my street light working?
Yeah, they don't connect. They don't connect.
When you have people passing legislation, trying to pass legislation and say, okay, let's all put it's dark everywhere. Everywhere we go, it's dark. Okay, let's all put $5 a month towards making sure we have lights so Granny could get home. $5, total pandemonium. You think about in the last 6 years, we have not raised one tax. Maybe some fees here and there, but nothing significant. While everything else has skyrocketed, this government has worked its best.
Is that sustainable?
Of course it ain't sustainable, but the good news is, what I want to finish this talk about, the government and the administration have been working to try to keep the things we can as cheap as possible. We have rental assistance, light assistance, mortgage assistance, child care assistance. We get pre-Head Start, pre-K and kindergarten. It's all for free. We have been doing everything we can to keep the price down. People still want more and don't want to pay anymore. And that's a total disconnect. And I tell people, especially people in the States when they then they come down and they, I don't understand why it's like this and how come I living like this. 89 people pay 66% of the income tax.
Yeah, we talk about this a
Wow.
lot.
The income tax is the largest pool of money. It's about $400 million, right? 89 people pay the majority of it. Another 3,000, you go up to like 80%. 30,000 people only pay about 20% of the income tax. So my strategy is twofold. Yeah, it's to get people free education, but it's also so we get higher earners so that we can pay more taxes, so we get a better roads, better schools, better hospitals.
So, Governor, would you say then, are we in a, because I look at this, are we in a society where we're in the majority of the VI population are low-skilled, uneducated folks? How can we build a future if we have, we have to import all high-skilled people? I mean, that may sound wrong.
I will tell you what the statistics say. The statistics say 17% of us have a college degree or higher compared to 27% in the States. The statistics say that 35% of us have never graduated from high school. And there's only like 2%, 3% of people who have advanced degrees. You think about the median household income has raised while I was governor, by the way. It's up to $52,000 a year. $52,000 a year. I spoke to a policeman the other day and I said, do you consider yourself the little man? He said, yeah. I said, why do you think you're the little man? He said, man, I hustling, I hard to live in the Virgin Islands. I said, how much money you make last year? He said, 160,000. I said, do you know that's 3 times the average household in the Virgin Islands? So the other part of it, we got to realize that, yeah, we're struggling in the middle class. And I ain't there too, right? But we are the premier class in the Virgin Islands. We are the ones that have to step up and make the sacrifices, whether it be in taxes or political service or public service. We have to do it. We have to go back and mentor and bring people along. You don't think I could be someplace else making the same money or more, be comfortable? Yes, I love being governor, but there is a dedication, not just me, a group of us, you two included, that really believe that this place should be like Wakanda. But guess what?
Yes. I have written and said we are the real life Wakanda.
We are.
I've said it in an article.
And in a lot of ways, if you think about it, like when you look at what the Virgin Islands offers, I mean, where in the world you have still have pension plans where you could retire? Nobody does that anymore. In the Virgin Islands, you could work for 10 years and you're vested. And you could live for 40 or 50 years more and we still pay you.
But for Wakanda, for us to live long, we got this healthcare. Because I thought, going back to my mom,
that's cool.
we put on an air ambulance. And I remember being in Miami in that room, my mother said, son, this isn't right. Because if we didn't have the means of connections, I'd have died.
Right.
That hospital, forgive me, it's a problem.
Which one?
The St. Thomas one. It's a problem. It's a problem. I guess I don't put my personal business out there, but I remember speaking to one of the doctors, and the doctor told me, you better get out of here. I said, why? He said, we don't have the specialists here. So there's a complication, she would die.
This is my point, right? Like everyone kind of chafed a little bit when I said that about WAPA, but it's the same thing with privatizing the hospitals, right? Like if they're tied into a larger system, then you can bring the specialists down. They're in your network, right? It's not just, and the crazy thing is we have 7 different healthcare systems within the Virgin Islands. Governor, correct me if I'm wrong.
7.
But how much is it? Is more than 3.
Define a system.
You have the hospital on St. Croix is a separate entity from a hospital on St. Thomas. Then you have Frederickstead Healthcare is a separate healthcare system.
Okay, yeah. We have a lot. But finish the thought. I like that. I like when I was Steve. A guy like debunking theories.
Just think about it from a Virgin Islands perspective. What if we brought all these 7 entities under one roof? Then you got one CEO. You're paying for one management team. You're buying syringes and blankets and things that you need to run your entity, and you're doing that one time. And obviously, the more you buy, the more purchasing power you have. That's gonna drive efficiency.
I hope you're not an aspiring politician.
Well, I'm a journalist here, and I'm hearing every point here. I'm a journalist here, but the thing is,
let me address that, right? So, John Abramson, one of my favorite intellectual people, had a discussion with me. We had a debate one day. I said, government has to be efficient. You know what he said? He says, government doesn't have to be efficient. It has to be effective. And we argued for a long while, and he said, this is what he said to me. He said, if we had an efficient government, we would only serve the people who have health insurance when they come to the hospital, and we would only serve the people who could pay. He said, if we did that, we wouldn't have a healthcare problem, right? And you think about it, and he says, we have an effective healthcare system that allows everybody to get service. We often compare our healthcare to Emory or Miami Metro, Jacksonville,
Right.
Cleveland Clinic, all of that.
we are literally Springfield, Ohio. When I say that, we're a small town. We're 100,000 people. Like, we got communities in the Atlanta metro area bigger than the Virgin
Well, you know, the
Islands.
difference is they have an interstate they can jump on and go to Emory.
So, I'll tell you two things now. The hospital resources we have compared to where we are incredible. I go to, my daughter has a chronic illness. We've been all over. You gotta wait in lines. When we went to Puerto Rico to see a pediatrician endocrinologist, there was literally 50 kids waiting in the hallways. So healthcare is a problem everywhere. Mayo.
But we don't have the specialists. So the doctor said
We'll
because they
never-
leave because they can't afford, they can't pay them, is what he told me.
We'll never have the specialists. We don't have the population for it. You got to think about it.
That's a tough call. So when people think about living and residing in their future and they get older, because I never used to think about that stuff, with my mom, I'm like, wow, now I see why people leave. So I don't want people to leave, Governor, because they fear if they get sick, they're going to die.
So here's the solution now. Under my tenure, which people don't really care about, right? we formed the Office of Health Information Technology. So for the first time now, we're launching medical records, a medical database. We're gonna have the ability to do telehealth and telemedicine. Wherever you go, your medical records are gonna go with you. So we complain about how it is in the Virgin Islands, but in other places you die. You know, I want to tell this story. We need like 3 hours to talk.
Yeah.
My daughter called me and she said to me, this guy in my class keep calling me. He needs to talk to you. He said his mother is sick in the hospital and she needs to get flown out. And they're telling her she can't get flown out. And I'm like, yeah, but what am I going to do about that? She said, you know, as my kids usually do, fix it.
You're the governor.
I said,
big boss.
you know what? Give me the information. So I went, I said, listen, this guy ain't even this lady ain't in the Virgin Islands, she in Florida. She needs to go to another hospital to get the care that she needs to, and they're refusing to fly her, okay? You know, I called my people, they got her to fly her out to the hospital in Florida, to the hospital she needed to go in Alabama. That, if she was a regular person in the States, she would die, because that's not gonna happen. When you go to our hospital, you know, this is another taxpayer thing. Every time one of these gangsters pick up a gun and shoot another one and they get shot, right? It's $100,000 for a gunshot wound. Most of
That's
these
per bullet?
these people, they don't have any insurance. I've sat in the hospital with a guy who got shot in his neck, blew out all his esophagus. He's sitting there, bleeding to death, and can't fly out because he can't find his birth certificate.
Wow.
In the hospital life, I had to tell him, I said, listen, get me the health commissioner online, pull this man board records. Because he have ID, much as health insurance. Who paying for that? All these people that we transport every day, flying them out of here, a lot of these people are not insured.
Upfront has been brought to you by Pro Solar and Christie's International Real Estate, U.S. Virgin Islands.
But Governor, you said something that my like a big ass, it perked up. These gangsters. What do you feel about these young men who are terrorizing each other in these neighborhoods? Because you mentioned your brother, and there's two ways to look at this. There are people who grew up in an urban environment, and because of that, they detest those people and that reality. Or the flip side, they're compassionate, empathetic. What do you feel about these young men who are technically holding some of our, just terrorizing some of our neighborhoods?
Hey, love and hate, man. You know, because, like, I never really understood this, right? I'm like, barber. One day we were sitting down and he said this to me. He said, I said, I don't understand it. He said, let me explain to you. He said, I ain't went to college. My parents couldn't afford it. My mother, we barely finished high school. He's just making a scenario. He wasn't talking about himself.
Yeah.
He said, listen, I started hustling when I was young. I had to sell weed. I don't trouble nobody, you know, by selling dimes on the block all the time. Ounce now and again, wherever. He said, now I have a business that's functioning. I feed my family with that. My mother sick, I buy her medicine with that. You come along now and you rob me, right? I can't call the police, you know. So that means I gotta get a gun. I can't get you robbing me every day. And if you come again, I'm going to shoot you because I got to defend myself and I got to defend my family. And if I sit on the block and somebody come and arrest me, I get a legal gun because I can't get a legal gun because I'm 18 years old. Yeah. I might have been in trouble before, but I don't have nobody to vouch for me and no money to go to get no handgun in the Virgin Islands. So what you want me to do? I just try and make a living and I out here. And I listen to that and it's like, that's real, right? That's real. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you don't think about people participating in illegal activity. But if you think about it, think about how many people got shot or going to work or on the job in the Virgin Islands. So now we have people who are involved in illegal activity, participating in the community as employees, endangering other people at the work site as well. So it's a lot of misunderstanding there. Here's the other thing too, right? We live in America, but we don't believe in the American system and a lot of the laws around the judicial, because if like I like I say, I hang out with people who, live different lifestyles or whatever, and they will tell you, listen, Jed come here today and he punched me, right? I call the police. They ain't doing nothing to Jed walking up and down. They didn't see it, altercation. I said, this man knocked me. So now, the next time Jed see me, Jed punking me now. Exactly. He's embarrassing me in front of my friends and my people. And so, this man will come and slap me again tomorrow and I'm going to take it. So the judicial system, and when I say the judicial, I should say the justice system, is not swift, it's slow. So like you shoot my brother, and I know who you is, I telling the police it's you, and they're saying, oh, I got to get a witness and I got to bring somebody to court. Nobody going to court for that. You just this man is walking around.
I'm borderline here because I guess I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I got to say, one thing about the street laws and the VI, I got to admit, it's killers killing killers. Now that's a cold statement, I just said, from what I've seen.
90%.
From what I've seen, and I think, is it that, let's be real, is it the larger communities like, well, that's what they're doing over there? Because I know some cops in Miami was like, let them kill each other.
But you don't think our community, when I talk about laws and swift justice, you don't think our people sick of this? Yes. They sick of it. You don't think if we was to say, listen, if you get catch with a gun here or you shoot somebody, we're going to take you to the market and bust 50 lashes on you. The first time when we catch you with a gun, the second time we're just going to fry you or hang you. You think people here would be opposed to that? Hell no.
Because I'm not as empathetic.
Yeah,
but
this is something we always joke about. This like, oh, gam though. It's gonna be somebody kid. It's gonna be somebody kid, and then they're gonna say, oh, gam.
But for the most part,
I don't know if I'm as empathetic with gangsters shooting each other in paradise. I'm tired of it.
But once again, it's the culture that is bred upon them. If you listen to the music, listen. You ever listen to like put on some dancehall? I have a couple of drinks.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
Right?
It's guns in the video.
Rap, right? You start acting it out. You start putting up your hand and so like that. Bow, bow. You see people in the club going, bow,
and I think
bow.
It's worse here because it's small.
Yeah, I was going to say, but still, I mean, in Miami, they're listening to trap music and, gangster rap music, but it's not, they don't have the homicide rate that we have in the Virgin Islands.
It's small.
But I mean, it's like numbers, right? So, like, if you add, like, I used to think, who
I can run from my enemy, man.
Who to get?
I gotta see him down there everywhere I go.
Who to get high? Who to smoke a joint and go kill somebody? And one of the street man ever tell me is like, what you think going on? Them man get up in the morning and drink all day, then they smoke and they hit a line and they listening to that music. They'll take you out.
I think that music has become the new crack to some degree.
I mean, you could see it like even with people who are law-abiding citizens. And I'm not blaming it on the music. I don't want people to think I'm blaming it on music. But I'm telling you, this
I'm going to blame it because I'm in the culture. I'm going to blame. I wrote a book.
In Jamaica, they've limited the amount of gun talk on
Sorry, I'm going to blame it on me because as a person who wrote a book with a gangster rapper, I'm on records with gangster rappers, I mean, I'm an artist. Yeah. I will say, if we're going to lie, we want to be naive that this new music, where young men are talking about smoking each other's dead bodies, like when using it, I'm smoking on such and such ashes, if we're gonna be naive, and we always say it's not in the music because these guys make a lot of money, but this music at this point is death.
But it is death. I mean, but let's be real, right? Like you guys have kids?
No.
Well, I have 2 daughters, right? And, you know, the iPad and the TV didn't raise my daughters, right? Me and Yolanda did. And, you know, it takes a lot of engagement. It takes listening to music with them and saying, like, you listen to what this dude's saying. True. Like, you believe this? Like, this is good? It's about listening to the news and having those discussions. Having those discussions.
How many parents have that time to do that?
But that's what I'm saying, you know? Look, let me tell you something. 4 years when I was working for myself before I was governor, I had this immaculate revelation. I had the blessing of being able to pick up my child every day from school. I used to come home all the time. I used to talk to her. She'd be like, hey, Daddy, you know, when you pick your child up from school, and this is the blessing that we don't have as black mothers and black fathers, for the most part in our community, when you pick your child up from school in the afternoon, they don't shut up about their day. Who they talking to, what they did, what their friends did.
Looking forward to that.
They just. But 5 or 7 o'clock when you get home, they already expended all of that energy. You gotta be able to figure out what's going on in your kid's life. You know, my oldest daughter, one time I was dropping her to school. She was going to country day. And she said to me while I was driving up, then she watches, she's gonna say, oh my God. She said to me, you don't feel shame that these kids in this school driving a better car than what you're driving? So this is a learning moment, right? And I told her, I said, first of all, them cars don't belong to them. They belong to their parents. They're just using those cars. Second of all, cars don't define who you are as a person and what you could do. They're just symbols of richness and wealthness. And that shouldn't define who you are or who they are to you. But if you don't have the chance, I mean, and I use that to show you in a upper middle class family what the conversation would be. But when you have a kid that going on and he come home and he be like, man, and you see him dancing in front of the radio, maybe you don't live in the best neighborhood. You see him dancing in front of the TV and putting his hands up like that, and I smoke these, man, and I done, he going on like that. And you don't have a conversation. And say, listen, you know, what are you really doing? What are you really dealing with? This is who you are. You are the descendants of kings. These people out here, these are your black brothers who have been enslaved for 400 years and taught a mentality to kill and hate one another. And you have to rebel against it. If you don't have that to debunk the poison in your mind, then you think that's your role in life. You expect to go to jail. Right. I never expected to go to jail. I expected to go to college. I expected to live in a nice house and have nice things. That was the expectation.
All my best friends died in high school out of violence.
Wow.
I'm like the only one that went to college. And it's so funny what these young men don't understand, that when you kill someone, you're affecting everybody.
Everybody.
Like to this day, I have a problem forming close bonds with friends because I don't know, I think you're gonna leave. And I don't think they understand that.
Yeah. But people don't understand. You know, my good friend was murdered buying a pack of cookies.
Wow.
And
how old was he?
He was probably in his 40s, late 30s.
Wow.
And right there in St. Croix. And for the first time, I felt like what people feel. Like I read about, they refer to my friend as the victim in the paper. I was like, this is my friend. It's like, he have a name. You know how people feel? Yeah. Like when somebody's taken from you. Innocently, you know.
Just this year, 4 people that I grew up with in Hannah's Rest are dead.
Look at that.
Murdered. 4.
That's a lot for a small community. Our murder rate was the highest per capita.
You know, we had, like, up to June, we only had 6 homicides in the territory. And it's just, like, gone hog wild. But, and I'm glad, like, we're talking about that because there is something going on in the country.
So you think it's bigger than us?
Oh, I just came from Morehouse, and one of their students had gotten in a car accident and died, and the other one killed themselves. We have had more suicides in the last 2 years than we've had in the last 20.
Interesting.
And people feeling desperate about and resolving the issues with guns. You know, for a long time, I really hated firearms, and people asked me why, and I said because once you carry around a gun, the resolution have to be a bullet.
Absolutely.
I'm anti-gun too. I think it attracts the killer. It attracts a certain.
Until everybody has a gun, then you need one yourself.
And here's the other thing that I think in terms of self-awareness as a people of color that we don't realize is that 70% of the people that are murdered in this country every year are black people.
Black people. We're committing genocide on our own.
But black people have no movement against gun control.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen black people protesting at the
Yeah.
NRA? I mean, and then think about it. The school shootings are what drive a lot of the anti-NRA, anti-gun thing.
Right.
But more kids die in Chicago
It's
on the
outside
weekend.
Chicago, you're right.
So but
Because, Governor, I think it's to that point I'm making. I think there are people looking at it. There are black people, and then I think when we say black and black crime, we almost, if there's a GD, a BD, if there's a gang culture, I don't think everyday working people look at them as civilians. There's civilians and there's gangsters.
Yeah.
So I think there's not sympathy for, I don't think so. Because I used to be very sympathetic, but I'm reaching a point now where if y'all want to just go around here murdering each other, just do it over there.
you know,
It's sad I'm saying that, but that's how I'm beginning to feel.
but you know, I saw this TikTok of two like 17-year-olds. They look like babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got murdered in their car in on St. Croix. And you know,
Oh, I read about that. It
and
was heartbreaking.
but there was no
Nobody cares.
public outcry. There was no, you know, they're like, and you know what people were saying? They were gangsters. And
But they're 17. They didn't even have a chance to fully develop, right?
To
That's a
understand
sad. That's a
what's
sad
going on.
thing.
But like
Very
I told an ex-politician 20 years ago, I said, you think you could buy your house on East End and the raining or wet your house down too?
Right.
Exactly.
So if we think that's gonna be those people kids
Gotcha.
with like, my daughters went to private school all their life. They live in a middle class neighborhood with two college educated parents. And routinely, she could point out to me in a paper and say, I went to school with this dude. I was at Christian Academy with this dude. I was at Free Will with this. And it's like how is this happening?
So, Governor, when you hear about a murder, does it hurt you?
Every single one. I mean, you know, the thing that sucks about being governor is that you know there's nothing that happens in this territory that's tragic that I don't know about that I'm not connected to. Every car accident in the middle of the night, everybody who dies, people who get COVID, I would get a call. It got to the point where if I saw the health commissioner calling me, I know somebody dead.
Right.
And you know, it's like, if I see the police commissioner calling me, pop up every fire, every homeless. I mean, like every single thing you see. So of course it affects you. And no, I can't say like it's criminals, right? It's because these are people's children.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's like, they are people's children. It's like this kid is 17 years old. He's an applied mathematics major. 25 gunshot fire after this kid in St. Thomas. That was last weekend. You know, you're like, what do you say? I mean, like, how? And I'll say this. I don't know. We're talking long.
You wrap up.
If I could rewrite the Virgin Islands history and be able to go back to a time when you go to school, your shirt need to be in your pants, your hair need to be cut, your nails need to be clean. You need to show up on time. You need to eat your food with your hands down. You need to eat all your food. And we need to bring back discipline, because it's especially for what we've learned is like, my dad told me I would have to work 2 or 3 times harder than any Caucasian person in order to get anything in this world. He told me, you will never ever teach a white man to be your boss. And I don't say that to be racist, but I say it for our kids to recognize the opportunity and the struggle that we have as black people. It has not gone away. It is still relevant and here. And we've taught our kids that they're equal, and that's great. But the world doesn't treat them that way. That's why they're getting shot. That's why we got 10 and 2. That's why I can't breathe. That's why we don't underestimate when we run somebody like Kamala Harris and know that, not because everybody jumping up means enough. We got to do more.
So that's a good point.
We have Trump and this new president and our relationship.
We wanted to talk about that a little bit since the election was this week. What are your thoughts on how the Virgin Islands fare with the new president? The president-elect.
We're going to do well. Of course, I'm an eternal optimist.
Even with a delegate that led his impeachment trial.
We're gonna do well.
I don't know.
So the beautiful thing about Stacey and I is, she works Congress, I work the Senate, and most of our friends in the Senate are Republicans. We have an active system where we always bring them down. And the other thing I do is I have good relationships with them. We have some big time Republicans here in the Virgin Islands.
Wow.
Huh?
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
all those rich people in St. John, you think they're Democrats?
Interesting.
Well, not all of them. I mean, you have a lot of people here that hate
Trumpites here.
You hate taxes. They hate taxes. Yeah, you got some people here to wear MAGA hats and stuff. But I stay friends with everybody because people aren't one-dimensional. I one time I had my kids there and I said, "You guys are Democrats, right?" She said, "Yes." I said, "So you believe in higher taxes for rich people?" They said, "Yes." I said, "So if you pay 22% now, rich people should pay 30%. They said, "Yes."
But when you get rich,
I said, "But if I give you $1 million, you'd be willing to pay $300,000 in taxes?" And they looked at me and they said, "That's a lot of money."
My buddy says, Peter, as your income, you become a Republican.
So as I'm a blue dog Democrat. I am very conservative when it comes to fiscal and what we're doing in the country. And I think the success of the Democratic Party, once again, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Bill Clinton, when he was president, came across the aisle and made the concessions, passed the Welfare Reform Act, which the Democrats hated, but now has benefited the country a whole heap of lot. Now you only stay on welfare 5 years, right? We have the lowest unemployment in the history of the Virgin Islands this year. And it's the same in America and every place else. So it's time to get people the tools that they need to get better wages, free training, free college education. Those are the kind of things.
And you think we can get that out of the Republican White House?
The one thing I think we can get, and I've been in the Trump White House, and I could tell you, I'm not a Trumper.
Have you met him? You met him, right?
Absolutely.
What kind of guy is this guy?
I ain't gonna say that because he win this time. I have to be nice. But I'll tell you what, he has really good people working for him. And if you think about the last 4 years, post-COVID has been a standoff in Congress. So we have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, a Republican president. At least something's gonna happen, right? We can finally get our tax bill. We could get a rum cover over moved and get that approved. Maybe we could get our Medicaid cap lifted. Or Jennifer Gonzalez, who's the the governor of Puerto Rico, the newly elected, is a big Trumper. Everybody knows what Puerto Rico gets, we get. So they owe Puerto Rico, the administration.
You don't think he's going to be vindictive at all towards the Virgin Islands?
Towards Stacey. I think he's I mean, without a doubt, you could ask her and she would tell you, that the delegate doesn't normally have security, the governor supplies security to the delegate as a courtesy because she gets a lot of death threats because of that thing with Trump. And it's going to get worse now that he's elected president. So I think there will be repercussions. But I think between me and her and our Washington lobbyists and our friends in the Virgin Islands, we could benefit. And we're going to we don't nobody thinking about us. We're like a rounding error.
Fair enough.
So Governor, fine.
Hold up. Yeah. So as we know, I know we're running long on time. Let's talk legacy. 10 years, 20 years from now, what would you like your legacy to be?
I thought about this, and mostly because people around me have been pushing me to do it. And when I ran for governor, I thought about legacy. But if I have to think about it, I'll be the governor that led us out of the global pandemic with shining stars. The one that attacked the big problems like the retirement system, and the one that finally turned WAPA into a renewable company. I'll be the one that, the governor that brought great change in terms of empowering Virgin Islanders by promoting home ownership and creating opportunities for learning because of the free education. But when you look at it, the greatest impact that we could make in the Virgin Islands, and a good friend of mine, the chairman, told me this, is water and power. Giving people access to water, which isn't as huge a problem, but energy. when we bring down the price of power in the Virgin Islands, we have an opportunity to offer the lowest commercial power next to Trinidad. What does that mean? That means after all of these billions of dollars dry up, there'll be real jobs in St. Croix, especially in our South Shore Economic Trade Zone, that we'll be able to do things like aquaponics and agriculture in a different way, that we would be able to power our schools, our hospitals, and most importantly, our homes at maybe 10, 12 cents of power. Because right now, the energy revolution in the Virgin Islands is far ahead. We have over $160 million that's dedicated to solar for all, people getting in their own batteries, their own solar plants, and the stuff that we're doing on the federal level. The emergence of us bringing not only in the government electric vehicles, but setting up those power stations and converting to that. Well, we're going to have more daytime running solar than we actually have a need for on the grid. So we'll have over 120 megs when I'm done, and we only peak at 85. Those are the kinds of things that I think that create legacy, but a legacy of learning, competition, and adaptability to change is the most important thing, because if you thought the last 20 years were tumultuous, the next 20 will be more. The amount of inflation that will be coming upon Virgin Islanders because of all this federal money coming here. So land, housing, home ownership, insurance, all these things are going to get more and more difficult to do. We can't just sit around as Virgin Islanders and say, oh, let the government pay me more. We have to make a concerted effort individually to say, I'm going to make myself more valuable. I'm going to take advantage of free vocational. I'm going to take advantage of a college education. I am going to go to the EDC and get a loan through the State Small Business Credit Initiative and open a small business. I'm going to participate and partner, if I have to, with another Virgin Islander to build a business in the construction industry, to corner the market in air conditioning or electrical or plumbing or carpentry. We have to start to trust one another and realize that the government isn't the only thing place where we could work, that we could work together to be and own. I mean, like, and I think that's a job for like people like the three of us. And I'm asking my friends this for my next, like, why don't we own a 300-room hotel? Why are we waiting for somebody to come here who don't have any money to bamboozle the government and get tax-free benefits and then find somebody else to finance and build it? Why don't we own the Uber system or the airport concessions or the tour companies? We are the people we've been waiting for. So my next quest is going to definitely be entrepreneurial, not just for me, but in terms of putting Virgin Islanders together to not only address all of the needs of our current crisis and the recovery of the Virgin Islands, but knowing that we're pretty used to crisis, so we could go to Florida, Virginia, Texas, California, anywhere, and manage crises there too, and bring that money back to the Virgin Islands. So that's where my head is at, you know, and what my legacy will be. People, I don't think, recognize the amount. We have made winning such a culture that the wins don't matter anymore. If you go back and you see how many shovels I've put in the ground, how many ribbons that I've cut, how many people that have gotten free education, how many people have gotten housing grants, electrical grants, how many people have gotten their roads paved over the last 5 years, the people that benefit from the retirement system, people that got the 8% back, the premium pay that we gave out. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I mean, last election we posted 100 accomplishments. In the last 2 years, I could post another 100. And finally, the digitization of the government, and we have made the government 10 years younger. The average age in the government has gone down 10 years. We have put so many young people to work. And they're bringing on this digitization age. So as we go to e-tickets, camera systems, e-filing for DPNR, medical records, health technology that allows you to do telehealth, brand new hospitals. I'm particularly proud about all these things. And
remind me never to ask a governor about legacy.
And listen, this I'm answering off the top of my head. Sometimes people around me remind me of the things that we've been able to accomplish in 5 years. Like, there is no other time in the Virgin Islands where you have had that much accomplishment. And people say, well, you had more money than ever. Yes, but I went and get it.
Yeah.
It didn't pop in there.
Yeah,
I don't like taking credit for myself alone.
Because people do like to say, well, he had a hurricane and a pandemic, so anybody would have got
But
the
I had
money.
a pandemic, and when it used to irritate me when people would say, "Oh, well, he did good in COVID." If we didn't do good in COVID, we'd be flat on our belly right now. We get all the federal money. Think about it, because if we didn't open our shores, we'd have killed another 200-300 businesses in the tourism sector easily.
That was a gamble.
It was, but we won, and we made more money. Imagine we're making less money now than we made in COVID, and that's because of great leadership and management from our team, not just me, from everybody, because we did it together. So I know a lot of people that always get mad at me because I like to win. Well, I don't like to win for me alone. I like to win for the people, the children, the seniors of the Virgin Islands. That's who wins, I mean, if the light bill would have gone to 63 cents, where would have been as an economy, as a people? And when I win, I want us to like winning, to like to be at the top of the number one list instead of the top of the bottom list. Like, I don't want to be the number one in murders. I don't want to be the number one incarcerated. I don't want to be the number one being diabetes. I want my people to have opportunities to get out, to be healthy, to not have to go to a healthcare system unless they're old. And when you get old, you're in someplace comfortable. But that's going to take us, the strong ones, to stop battling and like contribute and figure out. Instead of criticizing, like, what's your idea? You don't have an idea? Well, then help me do mine until you find a better one. And that's what and the other thing is disagreeing better, right? I mean, my brother was in the paper protesting me joining emergency services and the fire department, right? And he asked me before he went, he said, they call on me, right? Because I'm your brother. I said, yeah. He said, what do you think I should do? I said, they think you should go. And he says, you're not gonna be mad? And I said, no. He said, why? I said, because people have to understand. Because we have a difference of philosophy doesn't mean we have to hate one another.
Me and you, we don't see eye to eye.
I see.
But it's my dear friend.
I love the engagement. I don't know everything.
So, Governor, finally, we're having an upfront conversation. Me and Jed always talk about being professional guys, ambitious guys, purpose-driven guys. Love is hard to grasp. You seem very happy these days.
I am ecstatic.
Are you in love, Governor? Are you in love?
I am. I have a partner in my life that supports what I do, and it's very difficult. And being in this environment is difficult. And we in my family, we had some very difficult times, and it's a pressure cooker. But I think I heard this comedian the other day, and he says, when you're with somebody, you gotta realize whether they're gonna be the supporter or the enemy. And I kept that in my head, and I always keep it in my head. And when you fight the world every day, you need to have some place to be where you could be you, and it could be okay. And that's extremely difficult to do. And I do my job better because I'm rested, and I know that it's going to be okay at the end of the day. And every day I go to work with a clear mind about what I have to do, because I'm a difficult person.
But as a man so powerful, how can you understand who is for you for love or for, I'm with the government, it's a lifestyle? Because we face that as
we have this thing that we say, we have no new friends. Like, we don't have any friends in my circle who we had from before. We know a lot of people, and we take a lot of people, we don't have any new friends. And the reason why is because we can't trust that those people are for us. I think, when people say people come along in your life, or, my girlfriend now, my partner, we've known one another for 12 years.
Wow.
We've seen one another. We were really good friends. We've seen one another through some terrible times in our lives. And I think, you need to have that. You need to have people who truly understand who you are when you're misunderstood so much every single day. And I often wonder why would anybody work their whole life, sacrifice most of their daytime hours, subject themselves to the abuse, not only them, but their family. Like the things that people say hurt my family more than they hurt me. For $150,000 a year and running a black car, it's not worth it. You're right. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I mean, people think, and it could be you could come in as a governor and abuse it and have the time of your life, but the reality of the situation is that I really just want to see good for the Virgin Islands, and leaving this office in 2 years, it breaks my heart every single day. Not because I like being in charge. If Jed, you were in charge, I'd be good with it. If you were in charge, I'd be good with it. If you have that single-mindedness that you understand that we all need to work together in order to be this person. But as a leader, sometimes you gotta make some decisions that are gonna scare the crap out of everybody. But that's the job. I just hope that as we move on, we're able to elect leaders that incorporate that type of mentality, that don't use it as a bully pulpit to beat people into submission, but a stage to usher in new people, new generations, prosperity, opportunity for Virgin Islanders and anybody else who comes to live here. But I'm a happy camper, man.
I see.
No, Governor, thank you. You've been very gracious with your time. This has been a fantastic discussion. I know the Virgin Islands public is going to appreciate it. I mean, this is Virgin Islands history, right? It's going to live on YouTube for forever, and I hope the listening public and the rest of the Virgin Islands and the folks in the, even in the States, enjoyed this discussion as much as we did.
Oh, I really enjoyed it, and I know it'll be. It's very morbid. Even when I take pictures or I do things, I think, imagine, when I'm dead, 30, 40, 50 years from now, people will go back and look at this thing and record history. I want to thank the both of you for doing this, because I honestly and seriously worry about us chronicling our history. When you look at what people are writing about Virgin Islanders,
exactly. I don't like it.
This time will be measured by what you read in the papers. The papers aren't written for historical perspective. They're written to sell, whether it's an online paper or a physical paper. This is an example of chronicling the history of the Virgin Islands and the people who run it. So thank you.
Upfront has been brought to you by Pro Solar and Christie's International Real Estate, U.S. Virgin Islands.